Oh, long day, man. Long day. Stream today. It's crazy. Just watch some Tifo, right? Just watch some Tifo. Tifo, let's see. Sensible transfers replacing Harry Kane. A brief history of the Euros. How to get better at Football Manager. Today, I was realizing that Tifo, one of my favorite YouTube channels, if you haven't checked them out already, of course, do. They make a lot of fabulous videos and stuff about the world of soccer, the world of football, and they dropped a How to Get Better at Football Manager video. So, yeah, we're going to watch that.
Number 8. There is no magic formation.
Okay, so it's 8 tips. So we're going to do 8 tips. See, that's a few more, but they do it much more economically than I do. Look, the last video was like 3 tips, but they were well explained over 17 minutes or something. Yeah, that's what I tell myself so I can sleep at night. They're coming for my job.
Changed. In the old days, your team was low maintenance. A little bit of careful pruning was all that was required from one season to another.
I like the idea, mental image of me just like, I found a new Brazilian. Come here, lad. It's like, aha, Fat Ronaldo has popped up again. But the idea that there's no magic formation. So they're saying at the beginning of this that they did the Football Manager podcast where they talked to people that made Football Manager. Well, I have too. And that's cool. Maybe we should be friends. But the idea that there's no magic formation is generally true. Now, I know there's going to be the people that just go, well, a full 2-3-1 gegenpress. You know, that is not the best formation in every situation. And I think you can win in a lot of different ways. But I do think that this is probably going to overlook, unless they address it later, is that there are certain instructions that just seem to always make your team better. Like playing higher lines is just better than playing lower blocks all the time. And maybe that's because it's the case in real life most of the time, but that is something that a lot of people complain about.
It's much harder now, and there is no magic formation that will take any team to the top.
There's also no formation that's going to break the game either.
1990s version or the 4-1-3-2 from 2001. You don't have to rip it all down and start again every week, but changes are important. Mix up set pieces so the AI doesn't adapt. Alter player roles too, perhaps using a ball winner in midfield.
Oh, them mentioning the AI adapting helps prove a point too, because I just made a video obviously about losing streaks. The AI does adapt. There were people that were saying like, well, the AI doesn't. They do. They might not do it well sometimes because most of the managers you're competing against are bad, and the AI is obviously, you know, weighted based off of those attributes, and your attributes in the game, because you watch all these videos, would be 20 and everything. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But they do adapt. And they're saying the same thing. So this isn't just me sitting here getting stir crazy in this room with the blue lights. And is that the color that helps you like read? No, right? Blue light is like the worst, I think. I don't know. It's soothing though.
To guard against a dangerous team, or a register when you want the initiative.
This is a pretty broad
Maybe even have
tip,
2
though.
versions of the same side, one more conservative than the other, so that you can switch accordingly. Number 7.
So that's definitely first tip, definitely pretty broad. I've mentioned most of that stuff. Just use all of your tactic spots, I think is the point there. And there's no magic sauce to winning. You can't break the game anymore. You cannot break the game anymore, which is nice.
Backup plans.
Backup plans.
There are 3 slots for tactics.
Right.
And it's in your interest
Use them all.
to use all of them.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it's a good idea just to have a different variant of your main game plan so you can tighten up towards the end of the match or pile forward for an equalizer.
I always recommend this. I never do it in practice though, because making the changes to your different set piece routines is always annoying. So if you have a tactic where you just take the wingers and go from attacking to support, probably wouldn't recommend using a whole different tactic spot for that. But in terms of actually making this applicable, yes, it is a good idea to have an offensive and defensive version of your main setup so that you can switch back and forth pretty well. And even if you stay within the same tactic and make the changes, your players will still be familiar with it because you've been working on it. Just remember in training, when you go into training, that you set which tactic you want to focus on in training and kind of try and rotate through all 3 of those back to your regularly scheduled programming.
But sometimes it's nice to have something completely different.
I love Joe Devine's voice. Seriously.
Why not have players practicing in an attacking back 3 or a defensive 4-1-4-1? Remember,
there's nobody else in the world that sounds like this. There just isn't. I don't know what he doesn't sound like any other presenter I've ever heard, but I love it. He is Tifo Football. If somebody else does one of their videos, I'm like, what are you doing here, man? What are you doing here? You know, come here, Joe. What Syracuse? Where are you going that fast? Nowhere. So what's he saying here? I got distracted by Joe Devine's silky pipes.
But sometimes it's nice to have something completely different in your locker.
I agree with this, yes.
Why not have players practicing in an attacking back three or a defensive 4-1-4-1?
So you can completely change what you're doing.
Play better when their instructions are familiar. Greater cohesion brings improvement to your movement. Don't throw a new idea at them 24 hours before kickoff. Work on it in advance. Maybe take control of the reserves and test it out in safe conditions. Take your time.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. That you should not make major changes. I think a problem a lot of people have is making huge changes too often. Training completely different styles of play throughout your 3 tactics can be very useful because then your team is familiar with a wider range of things. Definitely, yeah. While these are very broad tips, I guess they are literally making 8 tips for the entire game, so checks out.
The 6, positions and roles.
It's probably going to be really
Player
basic,
roles
right?
Are so important. By adjusting your player roles, you can have 2 4-4-2s that are completely different.
Yep.
Or a 4-4-2 that works like a 4-3-3. But you have to ensure that the players suit the roles. Don't tell a midfielder with 8 out of 20 stamina to play box to box. Fullbacks who can't cross should be used defensively, not ordered to charge forwards as complete wingbacks. Now it's good because it enables you to find roles for players you...
Complete wingbacks are very rare. I made a whole wingback guide, right? But complete wingbacks don't even hug the touchline. They can go wherever they dang well please, and they do it all the time. Basically, what you're looking at there is wingbacks or fullbacks. Wingbacks look to dribble and cross. Fullbacks can also look to cross as well. If you have somebody that's not good at crossing, you probably want to go, I would say, fullback on support or defend is usually what I use. But don't just because they can cross put them on complete wingback either. You need a lot more than that.
You might otherwise have to sell. Have you got a big slow forward in your squad? Well, maybe he'll be less useless as a supporting target man. Number 5, keep it simple.
Yeah, that was just like a basic kind of welcome to the game sort of thing almost. I like this though. Like their ability to animate things, despite as much time and investment we kind of put in building our team, their ability to animate things is still just better than ours is. My goal is at some point to be able to animate concepts the way that I talk about them, to be able to animate them with our editorial team in a way that looks like this.
When you start with a new club, keep the player roles basic.
Well, not exactly like this. We have our own style, right? This is definitely Tifo style everywhere, but it's really neat to see FM concepts animated this way.
Central defenders, central midfielders, one or two new clubs.
I'm so bad at paying attention. Keep it simple. Okay. Okay.
When you start with a new club, keep the player roles
KSS,
basic.
keep it simple, stupid.
Central defenders, central midfielders, 1 or 2 strikers, 1 or 2 wingers, and then watch them in the first friendly and see where they excel and where they struggle. Then make your little changes. Get movement between the lines by making one fullback more attacking than the other. Maybe invert a winger and see what happens. Baby steps. The fewer instructions you give them, the fewer mistakes they'll make.
That's key. The last thing he said is the best tip there. I mean, in the basic sense of trust your eyes, Football Manager builds itself so that you have to trust your eyes when you're watching the game. But, let me have him say it again.
The fewer instructions you give them, the fewer mistakes they'll make.
Obviously, the higher your cohesion, the higher your familiarity with the tactic, the less mistakes they'll make. The higher their teamwork, the less mistakes they'll make. But the lower league team you are, the worse your team is, and everybody that wants to be a hero and start with a terrible team and go all the way to the top, like you're watching me doing on Twitch down here in the description. Yeah, Oriental Dragon, we just won Liga NOS for the first time, and as of recording this video, we just beat Arsenal in the Champions League, in our first Champions League match, 3-0 on the road. I think we just got Frank de Boer fired from them. That's not important, though. Keeping it simple for these guys and playing a numbers game can be a lot better than trying to get your 5th division team to play tiki-taka with 15 different personal instructions. Huge.
Number 4, use interconnected tactics. Now,
this is kind of a footballing concept, no?
If you make a winger attack more, he'll defend less. If you drop a striker into a deep-lying role, he'll fill that gap. Every decision you make will have repercussions. Now, it means that you can link player roles together. For example, don't try to dominate the left flank by telling both your fullback and your winger to attack.
I do this. My tactic actually uses this, but we play more narrow up front, so the winger ends up tucking inside more, obviously. What they do a very good job here, and they've obviously done a very good job here, is expressing basic concepts of the game to people that play Football Manager but haven't really taken the step to understand it yet. I'm wondering if they're going to dive deeper in the last couple, like, oh, the best tip, and this is some little hidden thing. But right now, like, this is essentially the player roles again. This is how your roles are going to work together. Use your brain.
They'll get in each other's way. Tell the fullback to attack and tell the winger to cut in by making him an inverted winger. When he goes inside, he'll probably take an opposing player with him, leaving space on the flank. And when your fullback delivers a ball from that space, make sure he's crossing in a way that suits whatever you have in the middle. 3 players, 3 roles, 1 effective attacking move. Number 3, don't ignore player traits.
Really?
Now, depending on their teamwork attributes, when a player likes doing something, he will do it whether you want him to or not.
Teamwork, the hidden important attribute. How much are they going to listen to you versus how much are they just going to, get some fancy Neymar hair going, miss every game for their sister's birthday, and just, here we go.
The worst thing you can do is fight it. The best thing you can do is lean into it. If you've got a defensive midfielder who likes playing short, simple passes, don't set him up as a deep-lying midfielder and expect him to launch 60-yard killer balls. If you're trying to provide support for a lone striker, but you don't want to play 2 strikers, search for a midfielder who likes to make late runs into the box.
This is actually great. This is getting into the art. This is getting into the art of Football Manager here, because player traits are what speak to you outside of the attributes. Player traits are the sort of thing like Quaresma uses the outside of his foot. That's the sort of thing that's in these player traits. Or De Bruyne attempts, or Ronaldo attempts long-range free kicks. That's like in the player traits, right? So when you go through your player traits, as you develop players, you want to build them out to work in your system. So someone like Angel Zamudio knocking balls past opponents would definitely be something that would be useful. And he's got that Gareth Bale sort of, I'm going to hit the ball past my opponent and then run to go get back onto it. Now, there's so many different player traits. I've made a video that you can watch here. It's fairly old now at this point, but it is still good in terms of describing what the player traits are and how you're going to be able to use them. But working players with those player traits into your team is just really, 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 really nice. It's more of a stylistic thing. And what he's talking about basically is don't ignore it, which is still, I guess, kind of a basic sort of situation. But you will notice that when you give somebody the player trait like, dribbles often or knocks ball past opponents or tries tricks, they're going to take on their opponent more, or likes to beat the opponent repeatedly. That's going to make them a much more effective dribbler than just their attributes would make them an effective dribbler. It's something that you really do need to watch out for, and I don't talk about enough in terms of improving your players. It's something that you can do to improve your team when they're 22, 23, 24 years old, and a lot of their development has already occurred. Well, now you add the finer points to their game, or you train out different player traits that you think don't help. It can be wonderful, and get into the box late or gets into the opposition area is a fabulous trait for more attacking central midfielders.
Look at every player's information screen. They are literally telling you how they like
Attribute
to play,
map.
and it's best not to ignore them.
Joe!
Number 2, plan your set pieces.
We're getting into the set pieces.
See,
Okay.
lots of people just ignore set pieces.
It's true.
In fact, according to data from Steam, only 1.6% of us have taken the time to create a set piece plan for every occasion.
I am not in that 1.6%. I don't really use set piece plans. I just sit down at the beginning of every game and adjust stuff. Setting that stuff would obviously help, because then it takes away the ability to forget to do that sort of thing when you're actually managing the match. But in terms of actually setting your set pieces up for your different pieces, 1.6%, really? I mean, have I gone in and changed everything for all of my free kicks? Probably not. But in my defense, when it comes to the free kicks, there's only so much you can do other than a symbol who you think should be where and in the wall and in the box and those sorts of things. Throw-ins, I'm working that short system right now, but I haven't really been able to verify that that's just like the best way to live life. I just create an overload by getting both fullbacks on one side of the field on throw-ins. And, it can eat up some time against teams that are better than you. But corners in particular, attacking and defending, are where the most goal opportunities are going to come from. So you at least need to check that.
It's time consuming, but it really is worth the effort. And don't forget to update
I agree
your
with that.
routines. Remember that the AI is always watching you, and it will adapt its plans accordingly. Number 1. Try this near post corner routine.
I am smiling because somebody told me about this. I knew this was coming somewhere. I forgot about it until it appeared now. So apparently, now I made a video a while ago talking about how to best approach your corners in FM21. What is the best way to approach corners? And apparently what they put here is very similar to what I said, with like one exception. Is my near post corner routine.
Now, if you've been reading the Football Manager Bundesliga challenge on The Athletic, you'll have seen how Ian McIntosh transformed a very poor Schalke side with a devastating near post corner routine. Remember, you need the right players to make any plan work, and don't forget to switch to a new...
Who does their drawings like that? This is just really cool. Obviously, I watch Tifo a lot, but I've never had the opportunity. Who does that for them? Like, it's awesome.
new plan after a couple of months to keep the AI guessing.
Where's my mic?
1. Get a good corner taker to aim corners at the near post.
Yes.
2. Position your best targets at the near post.
It's the exact same thing right now. This is my corner tactic that I talked about months ago and have used nonstop on Twitch. Now, you want the footedness of your player to be bending towards the tallest guy, like your best guy. The second best guy is the guy it's bending away from, because he'll still get involved like 40% of the time.
Usually it's your centre backs, but check everyone. You're looking for 6 foot 2 inches plus with good jumping and heading stats.
Basically.
3. If you haven't used your strikers at the near post,
Put him at the far post. Amazing.
at the far post, where if the AI is man marking your strikers, the towering defenders will follow.
That's interesting, because that's not the reason that I have it. I put my strikers at the far post because the ball will get, it ends up in a crowd at the near post, and then it gets glanced to the far post. And then the best finishers on my team are going to be waiting at the far post to put the ball away. But I put one striker here and then the other one coming off the top of the box, so that if it bounces into this area, then they're there too. But I suppose that's almost dealer's choice. But moving them man-marked out of the way, like moving the man markers out of the way, is a good idea.
4. If you've got a little winger who offers nothing in this sort of scenario, tell him to be a short option. The AI might send someone to mark him, and that means one fewer defender in the box.
See, I don't do this. I did this last year when I made this set piece video. Last year we did this. Then they stopped kind of following it over. I have not really reinstituted it in FM21 because I liked having more crowding in the box. But this is effective. You guys should test this in your own save and see if you've got somebody that can follow. The other spot that I put my quickest player is on the edge of the area so that they can stifle counterattacks. I literally put my winger, my lightning fast winger on Samudio at the edge of the box, and he just screens out counterattacks, which are very dangerous off corners in FM. You want to be able to stop that. I have 2 defenders back. I don't know what they're going to have.
5. Make sure you leave someone lurking on the edge of the box.
Okay, there you go.
The corner is cleared.
They should be
Someone good at
fast.
long shots, ideally.
Nah, I don't agree with that. There just aren't a lot of long shot opportunities for that type of person. I for years, I would put a great passer, great long shot merchant in that spot, but just the way that the game kind of plays out on set pieces, you don't get a lot of shooting opportunities at the edge of the area. So I have a fast offensive player there so that if they receive the ball, they're good enough with it to kind of restart the attack. Usually they pass it back out wide like this way. But I definitely think that you gain more from putting somebody that's fast, or like your defensive midfielder there. Somebody that can screen out counters.
6. Make sure you have at least 2 players back on the halfway line.
They do have 2. God, this is great minds think alike, I guess. Or they just copied me. I don't know.
Ideally, quick players who can stop a counter. And 7.
Wow. I swear I did not help them with this at all. I also came up with my set piece setup through trial and error on my own and didn't talk to anybody at FM about it. If somebody at FM recommended this to them. This is weirdly similar, the things that we're saying.
Finally, make sure that none of your halfway line players are on your list of corner takers. Because if the injuries or substitutions force that player to step up,
and all of a sudden you end up with 1.
You'll only have 1 man back.
And that's instant goal.
Subscribe to Tifo to help us on the road to 2 million subscribers.
The writer was Ian McIntosh. Ian, we need to have a conversation. I thought that was really cool. I hope Tifo does more stuff with Football Manager, because I do think it plays into the stuff that they already talk about, because they basically turn the sport in real life into this sort of thing that Football Manager players can understand. And that's why I think I watch the channel so much, is because my understanding of the game largely comes from Football Manager, and they're able to take the real life game and put it in terms where I'm like, okay, yeah, you want to do this, 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 and that. And it helps me understand the game when I'm actually watching it. Always learning. Maybe they could take over the Football Manager for Beginners series, even though I'm almost done with it. Like, that's probably the most broad set of recommendations. And then all of a sudden at number 1, they're like, use this corner routine or else. Hey, Tifo, you ever went talk about Football Manager? I got you. I literally don't do anything else. All right. See you on stream.